Good morning. Thank you, April. Very nice comments. Thanks to you and Robert both for allowing me to participate this year. The role of moderator is kind of strange for me. Usually I'm a troublemaker rather than moderating other people, but we'll see how that evolves today. Basically, I just want to take a few minutes and just run through some images to kind of set the stage for what we're going to see and hear and participate in this weekend. And I've lectured before how important the South is, particularly as it relates to our ceramic history. The very first earthenwares, the very first stonewares, the very first porcelains, all Southern products. And as American ceramic historians and students, we should be proud of the Southern heritage for these great discoveries. MESDA, in 50 years, we're celebrating the 50 years of ceramic research here at MESDA, which has, I won't say culminated, but we have taken another step, particularly with the wonderful gallery that Bill and Susan Mariner have made possible here. Ceramic research is a slow process. I don't know why, but I think over and over again, we can see things that have, you would think would appear overnight, actually can take decades at some point in terms of taking that next step and learning. But beyond just pure knowledge, this photograph of Arthur Goldberg and Esther taken yesterday sort of conveys to me, if we could bottle the essence of this photograph, I think, and distribute it to the world, it would be a better place for people understanding what we find so attractive and mystical and magical and beautiful about ceramic history. And I applaud, what I like to see here too is the generational reference, that Arthur is blessing this object and passing on his knowledge to the younger generation here. So please, if people don't know one another here, the point of these conferences is to talk to one another and take advantage of the shared knowledge we all have. Now, this isn't a new process. The connoisseurship, the study of ceramics has been going on almost since the invention of pottery. And the fact that we are participating in this ritual that goes on and on and on, where we gather together to share these moments, scholarship, appreciation. But Southern pottery occupies a special place, unlike this sort of very elite setting where we all sit around with our wine glasses raised. Southern pottery aficionados are the most democratic folks in the world. They can range from the very high-end folks as well to most of us, the everyday folks. And perhaps no other category of American decorative arts has such a following along democratic lines, that there is something from everyone. In fact, most of the grassroots work is done by the weekend collectors, the people who haunt the flea markets and the auctions. So there's a lot to be said for that democratic approach that Southern pottery embodies. Today we're going to see a variety of approaches discussed, how one can gauge ceramic history and approach it. We're fortunate to have a number of potters in the audience who will be demonstrating and speaking. And this is information straight from the horse's mouth that most of us can admire and appreciate from a distance, but listen carefully to what the potters have to say and watch what they do. It really is a mystical, magical experience to turn clay into what I consider a living object, that transformation of clay, of raw substance into a finished product that we all can pay, $300 for a weekend to sit around and discuss. It's really a magical thing. Other approaches, of course, everything starts with the clay, but we have some new advances in technology, not only technology, but ways of thinking about objects. We're going to be treated to some new scientific sort of breakthroughs and how we understand connoisseurship, ceramic history, where ceramics were made, even how they were produced and travel and trade networks. So the scientists are alive and well in ceramic studies. But the basic thing we all are sort of gauged in is what I use the term connoisseurship. Basically, when faced with an object that's fairly anonymous, we ask the basic questions. When was this made? Where was this made? And who made it? Those questions, I think, are the foundations of how we gauge objects. And we're going to be listening to people today answering these questions for us, at least proposing possible answers for a number of objects, including Baltimore ceramics in Alexandria, from Kentucky, and I'm not going to say too much about this now, but this is sort of a great presentation that sort of links northern ceramic traditions with southern ceramic traditions in a very, very surprising and exciting way. So again, most of what we can see today relates around connoisseurship. We also have a lot of narratives that run throughout southern ceramic history. And a lot of it revolves around telling stories. In a lot of cases where we don't have hard facts written in clay or written on paper, a lot of the narratives we create are based on historical facts as well as interpretations drawn from other disciplines. One of the most important American narratives that has come about in the last decade has been the story of David Drake, the enslaved potter of Edgefield. Numerous exhibits and books have now come forth about the life of Dave, who basically, for the most part, remains anonymous. But yet people have applied their theories and their feelings based on his pots primarily and the writings on them that have sort of characterized Dave as a very, very crucially important figure in American ceramics. And they have tried to characterize the life of Dave as well. I have a very, very specific point of view concerning Dave's life, and it comes from observing his pots. I think Dave's pots are the most ferocious pots in the American South, in fact, all America. And Mr. T, to me, and his rhyming couplets are almost identical to the couplets in structure. I'm serious about this, that Dave has written, even though the content is slightly different. And what I'm advocating here is that we think of Dave's pot and Dave's perhaps in a little bit more ferocious way, in that he was a true advocate of a lot of things, but his pots are magnificent as objects. And for me, Dave is always Mr. D now in Southern ceramic history. Another one of our narratives and mysteries stories has been the Southern face jug, the ones produced early by the enslaved populations of Edgefield. These have generated more interest / controversy than any other ceramic object, type of class of ceramic object in the past 20 to 30 years. Things are still a mystery, but we're going to have some fortunate discussion today that may shed great light on advancing the study of these face vessels. One thing we're lacking today in the presentations, which I'm a strong advocate on, is the use of archaeology. I advocate that without archaeology, we really can't do any ceramic history. Ceramics are the most fragile objects of all the decorative arts, and they were meant to be used, broken, thrown away. American ceramic history is written in the ground, not in museum cases or in documents. It's really the use of archaeology that furthers that. And I'm sure in future conferences we will have quite a bit of archaeology to share. I do want to say Old Salem's in the process of undertaking a fascinating excavation up the street here on Main Street of a Rudolph Christ, one of his experimental kilns where he produced faience. And that excavation is just beginning underway this year, and hopefully in future years we'll have some great surprises that will incorporate all the themes of research that I mentioned today. So in a nutshell, I'm just saying, previewed a little bit of what we're going to be treated with today.